For a long time, I believed anxiety was something to overcome, something to silence, something to fix. I thought if I could just calm my mind enough, if I could think more clearly, if I could become stronger or more disciplined, the feeling would disappear. But it didn't, because what I was calling anxiety was never the enemy. It was a signal, and not a random one. Your body doesn't speak in language. It doesn't explain. It doesn't justify. It communicates through sensation, through pressure, through restlessness, through that quiet inner tension that appears when something in your life is no longer aligned. Most people are taught to ignore that signal, to stay productive, to stay busy, to push through discomfort, to label it as stress, weakness, or overthinking. So they distract themselves. They fill the silence. They stay connected to noise. They scroll. They consume. They move faster. And sometimes that works, briefly. But the feeling always returns. Because signals don't disappear when ignored. They only become louder. Anxiety often appears when your outer life no longer matches your inner truth. You may not even know what's wrong at first. Nothing dramatic has happened. Nothing has failed. On the surface, everything looks fine. But inside, something feels tight. Your routine feels heavier than it used to. Conversations feel draining instead of energizing. Places you once belonged to suddenly feel distant. That discomfort is not imaginary. It's the pressure of growth. Your system knows you're outgrowing something before your mind is ready to admit it. And when growth approaches, your nervous system reacts. Not because you're weak, but because you're stepping beyond the familiar. The mind is designed to protect what it knows, even if what it knows is limiting. So when change approaches, your thoughts may speed up, your sleep may shift, your emotions may feel stronger or flatter than usual. This isn't malfunction, it's adaptation. Sometimes anxiety shows up because you're avoiding a truth, a conversation you've delayed, a boundary you haven't set, a decision you already know the answer to. Your body senses the misalignment and tries to pull you back into integrity. Other times, anxiety appears right before expansion, right before a breakthrough. And this is where many people misunderstand it, because transformation doesn't always feel empowering. Sometimes it feels like fear. Sometimes it feels like exhaustion. Sometimes it feels like confusion or loss. What's actually happening is that the old version of you is losing relevance. Your habits, your coping mechanisms, your old identities, they begin to loosen. And that creates uncertainty. Your body feels it first. That's why you may feel tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. Why silence suddenly feels necessary. Why stimulation feels overwhelming. Why your system asks for stillness. You're not shutting down. You're recalibrating. You're not losing energy. You're redirecting it. Anxiety often arises when your inner world is reorganizing. Old patterns are being released. Old beliefs are being questioned. Old attachments are dissolving. And that process takes energy. That's why forcing yourself to push through often makes the feeling worse, Because you're trying to override a system that's asking for listening, not control. The mind wants answers. The body wants alignment. Overthinking feels like action, but it rarely brings relief because clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from honesty. The real question isn't, how do I make this stop? The real question is, what is this asking of me? What truth am I avoiding? What chapter am I refusing to close? What version of myself am I afraid to release? When you stop fighting the signal, it no longer needs to shout. When you listen, it softens. This doesn't mean you act impulsively. It means you slow down enough to hear yourself. It means creating space, reducing noise, allowing silence. Because silence is where signals become clear. You may notice that when you finally allow yourself to pause, the pressure eases. Not because everything is solved, but because you're no longer resisting yourself. Anxiety loses power when it's understood, because it was never trying to hurt you. It was trying to guide you toward a version of your life that fits who you're becoming. If you're in a season where everything feels unfamiliar, where your old life no longer fits and the new one hasn't fully arrived, there is nothing wrong with you. You're in transition, and transitions feel uncomfortable because they exist between identities. You're not who you were. You're not yet who you're becoming. That space can feel unstable, but it's also where growth happens. So be gentle with yourself. Rest when your body asks. Step back when your mind feels crowded. Trust that this signal carries intelligence. You don't need to fear it. You don't need to silence it. You need to listen. Because the moment you do, anxiety stops being a problem and becomes a message. And that message, when honored, leads you back to alignment. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not failing. You're being guided. And clarity always follows the courage to listen.